People ask me about where I film my various films for you, chums, where are you today? And, the other day I was in Waterloo Station and somebody said, it's really nice that you show us snippets of London. That's the whole point, really, of the channel. I take you out and about and we get talking on the comments and stuff like that. And that's the camaraderie, isn't it? It's the friendship group that I hope to have achieved. That was the whole point. Now, behind me here, of course, is the Houses of Parliament. And I'm here quite a lot, as you can imagine, reporting on everything that some say is going right and going wrong with our current government, currently headed by Sir Keir Starmer. But there's been so many things here, you see. This building actually was started work on in 1837. That's right, completed in 1860. It took a long time. But I don't know if you know this, if you are living in the United Kingdom, but if you want to come and have a look round the Houses of Parliament, you can contact your local MP, assuming they've not been suspended or fired, of course, and they have to invite you in and show you around what they do. Remember, they work for you. You pay their bill. So, of course, if you wanted to have a bit of a free tour, minus, of course, the brilliant Houses of Parliament tour, maybe you could bypass it that way. You see, what's fascinating in here is literally careers live and die. People desperate to become somebody in power, but it can only really go one way. Now, this particular building is, of course, this sort of second generation building after the previous Palace of Westminster burnt down. Now, I don't know if you know this, right, but, this was a kind of a strange thing I found, was the fact that actually there was a competition to rebuild the Houses of Parliament. They put it out to the general public, Now, as I've said to you before, it's a bit like talent contests and stuff. There's no way that if you and we, you and I should have said, were out there at that particular period, we sketch it on the back of a bit of paper and said, got an idea, oh yes, come along, build it, no problem. No, of course, this was all to get publicity, get, backing, get sponsors, get people interested in literally rebuilding this magnificent structure that we now see today. Now, the person who won the competition I love this, don't you? The won the competition was none other than this man, Charles Barry. Now, Charles Barry was already a brilliant builder stroke architect, but of course, they had to go through the motions. And so naturally, he got the job. But it wasn't as simple as people thought, because the minute he got the job, all the other esteemed architects and builders of the generation, and there were many, let's not forget, in the 1800s, well, they all started to attack him, in print, basically saying it was overspending, it wasn't going to work, and he did have a lot of problems because first and foremost he needed to bring down from Aberdeen this wonderful granite stone to shore up the side of the Thames. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen Aberdeen granite stone, but it is magnificent. Aberdeen is a special part of course, this country, and it's just wonderful when you go up there because all the buildings are very unique. But imagine that, having to bring all of that down from Aberdeen in that era, horse and cart, boats, this is why it took so long, basically. It wasn't as easy as it would be today, but then let's not forget, we wouldn't have this magnificent building that we have today. Finally, it was completed in 1860, and really, everybody thought this is marvellous, and the idea originally was that they were going to get lots of visitors, but at that point, they didn't allow you to go touring round the way it is today. Everything's a tourist trap, isn't it? No, they weren't very keen on that. You could come along and marvel at the building, and people were very entrepreneurial, setting up tea stalls and coffee stalls and stuff outside. So people would literally take their Sunday walk in the Victoria Park here and then go and look at the building, have a cup of tea and go home. Simple pleasures, right? Totally different than today. Now, Charles Barry, as I say, was an incredible guy because not only did he create this magnificent structure, but at the same time laid the foundations and put together what we now know as an absolute staple of TV, Highclere Castle in, of course, Downton Abbey. And yes, he came up with all of that and put it all together. And that's really, if you look at the two buildings, why structurally they look the same, the Italian sort of Renaissance sort of thing. It looks brilliant, I think. Now, for many people, each time you watch Downton, and you'll see this with a different eye, when they do the pan of that wonderful castle, you will see exactly the influence that Charles Barry had. Now, what was fascinating about Charles Barry, as I said, was he was already very well known as a, architect, but he didn't really escape his critics, and for many years, people didn't like this. There was even talk about replacing it once again. Now in the 21st century, we're told that the Houses of Parliament are sinking. Some might say a bit like the current government, right? And they're going to have to move out and shore it up, and apparently it's infestated with rats. I'll leave that there, you can put your own jokes in. But clearly there are problems. But after so many years, well, what building wouldn't have a problem? But the other side of it is, it still remains an iconic structure that many people come to visit, take a tour around, go and buy things in the souvenir shops. And really, when you think about it also, Charles Barry really did leave a lasting impression on this world. This building will outlive so many others. And the bottom line really, when you think of London, you think of Buckingham Palace, Big Ben, which is of course known now as the Elizabeth Tower, and the Houses of Parliament, black cabs and of course red buses. So really we owe Charles Barry a lot. And as I said, a lot of people ask me, why are you standing there? Well, I'm just about to go in to listen to what's happening in the chamber. Sadly, no phones allowed. Well, unless you get caught and then expelled. But I'm not going to do that, am I? Neil Sean, Parliament, London.